Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Teach Me How. Today I'll be explaining how to complete the ATST boss fight in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the hardest difficulty without taking damage. I'll start by covering the individual attacks and what they do, and then I'll explain how to use that information to form a concise, repeatable strategy. As always guys, my typical disclaimer, this is not a guide to the best or only way to complete this without damage, but just simply an explanation of the strategies I use in my own challenge runs. So let's start by discussing what abilities and attacks you'll be facing as you engage the ATST. First up is standard blaster fire. The ATST will always shoot 2 blaster shots per volley at you, no more and no less. These work like any other blaster fire encounter in the game. They can be deflected and blocked. Next up is the ATST's rocket launch. When used, the ATST will launch a rocket vertical a bit, and then it will go horizontal towards your location. This is important to know because depending on when you interact with the rocket, you'll get 2 very different outcomes. These rockets work just like the rocket stormtroopers. You can simply outrun or dodge them, or you can force push them back to do damage to the ATST. Now specific to force pushing the rocket, if you push the rocket before it goes horizontal, you'll not only push the rocket, doing damage to the ATST, but it'll be free. Free meaning it'll cost no force to use. Now depending on your distance from the ATST, there's a slight opportunity to get it for free briefly after it goes horizontal, but either way, like everything else in Fallen Order, it's all about learning the timing. Note that if you have no force to begin with, this will not work. Next up is launched grenades. Once the ATST gets relatively close to you, the ATST will prioritize launching grenades. It will always launch 5 grenades that spread out the further they travel from the ATST. These grenades are affected by force abilities, and I'll explain how to use this to your advantage a bit later. Next are leg grenades. When you get within a meter or a few feet of the ATST, it will stop moving and drop 1 grenade along each leg. Once the second grenade has been dropped, the ATST will begin to move again, whether the grenades have detonated or not. The last ATST attack are the launched shot grenades. This is a fairly rare ability and one that you generally only see when attacking the legs of the ATST. These look similar to the launched grenades, but when they land, they put out a circle, which if you're standing in it, will electrocute you and lock you into place. So now it's time to put all of this knowledge to use and go through how to get through this encounter without taking damage. My standard strategy is simple. You'll stay as far away from the ATST as you can, and once it pushes you to the edge of the area, you'll rotate to the other side of the area and repeat. Keeping that in mind, let's go through how to make that work. So as you move into the area and engage the ATST, you'll want to immediately stop right when he turns to face you. Stand your ground and deflect the 2 blaster volleys that he'll send out. After these, the ATST will launch its first rocket at you. Either while it's vertical or just as it goes horizontal, force push to get a free push on the rocket and do a considerable amount of damage to the ATST. After pushing the rocket, move back and get a bit of distance since the ATST will now start to move toward you as it fires. Note that after 2 successful blaster deflects, the ATST will always stagger momentarily. Use this time to move back and keep your distance. Eventually, the ATST will get close enough and either start launched grenades or leg grenades. If you get launched grenades, wait until most of them have touched the ground, then, using the mass push ability, push the grenades back to the ATST for massive damage. If the ATST uses leg grenades, run through to the other side of the area and get as much distance as you can. You'll then rinse and repeat the previous strategy of deflecting blaster shots and moving back and away from it in between staggers. 2 things to keep in mind here. 1. Never ever force push the ATST's rockets or grenades near any of the boxes in the area. Without targeting the ATST, which I do not recommend doing for various reasons, you run the chance of your force push connecting with the box and not the rocket or the grenades. 2. You can force the leg grenades and rotation by moving close to either leg. This will allow you to lock the ATST in place when you choose and allow you to better control the fight and the rotation. The last thing to note regarding this fight is that once you defeat the ATST, the pilot will emerge from the hatch at the top of it. For all intents and purposes, this pilot is a stormtrooper, so just treat him as such. Well, that's it. Hopefully this was sufficient enough to get you through this boss fight without taking damage. As with all of my boss fight guides, there will be an unnarrated example of this fight, unedited for reference or study. I've actually developed another way of doing this fight if you're having trouble with the grenades and rotation timing. That strategy will play immediately following the standard strategy example. So if you enjoyed this episode of Teach Me How, please consider subscribing and make sure to like the video. Doing this is the best way for you to tell me you're enjoying the series and helps the channel out a ton. I'll be releasing new episodes every week, so don't forget to turn on notifications so you get to see them as soon as they're put out. And if you have anything to share or any feedback, please share them in the comments below. As always, guys, thank you for watching and thanks for learning.
Tell him he better get his butt. Hold on, I'm on my way. We've got a walker firing on us, and our weapons are down. Is that him? Tell him he better get his butt. Hold on, I'm on my way.
What?